This is the Book of Dad with Robert Benson, an upbeat weekly review of personal anecdotes, helpful tips, and communal chat about the ups and downs of parenting. Your host, Robert Benson, knows that being a dad is not easy, but this show is for all the dads just trying to do their best. Now, here's Robert.
Hey, welcome back to the Book of Dad radio show. This is Dr. Robert Benson. As always, before we get started, we want to say thank you to Jehovah. Thank Him for His Son, Jesus Christ. Thank Him for our families. Thank Him for work and our ability to do the things we are able to do. Book of Dad radio show, Life and Spirit Online on the NASCA Network. And, of course, I'm hanging out with my main man, Eddie G.
Hey, sir. How are you?
Doing great, man. Thanks for hanging out, Eddie G.
Yeah, I figure I'd spend a couple minutes with you today, man.
Just a couple.
It's a new year.
There you go. Yeah, Happy New Year to you, Ed. And we got a lot of great stuff coming this way, coming through the NASCA and Life and Spirit Online.
Yeah, that's right. In 2019, I just want to mention, don't forget, this is 25 years for the NASCA Network. We're celebrating 25 years of being in operations, and we want to do a few events and bonus things this year. We'll keep you up to date on that.
Wow, happy anniversary to NASCA Network. 25 years. What's that? That's the golden or silver anniversary. What is that?
My back hurts. I don't know what one. I don't know which one it is.
Well, enough babbling, man. We got a family member coming on today, huh?
Yeah, a brother from another mother.
Well, the thing that's funny about this is that, there's a lot of different things. I mean, I'm a creative person. You're a creative person. We like to write. We like to do all sorts of things. But today we're going to talk to a guy who kind of personifies that creativity, if you will, on a number of levels. But, we don't steal thunder. We're going to definitely get by with the help of this good friend, a guy by the name of G. Brian Benson. Hey, Brian, how are you?
I'm really good, Dr. Robert. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much, man. Thanks for acknowledging the doctor thing. But you can just call me Robert.
Okay, all right. Robert,
he's only 2/3 doctor.
Okay.
But hey, before we get talking to Brian, let me share something with y'all that my wife said to me some time ago. I finished my PhD, right? I said, hey, baby, you got to start calling me doctor. She said, okay, yeah, right. She said, you're going to need a doctor if you think I'm going to call you Dr. Benson. You know what I mean? Enough of that, Brian, man. How's it going? What's going on with you out there in Los Angeles, man?
I'm really good. We are getting, tons of rain the last 3 days. It's so weird because we never really hardly ever get rain anymore, and it's just been like cats and dogs. So I'm just kind of trying to stay cozy and warm.
Hey, do your thing. Do your best at it. But, obviously you got a story to tell, and we're going to let you tell that story. But let's just get started with Brian. Who are you, man? Where are you from, and how did you get to be who you are?
Oh, my gosh, that's a huge question. I'm originally from Oregon, Salem, Oregon. I live in Los Angeles now. And, I feel like I've lived many lifetimes. The last 10 years, I left my family business 10 years ago, really kind of into the unknown, and just following my intuition. And a lot of kind of crazy things started happening as I kind of kept doing that and stepping out of my comfort zone at the same time. And I started finding a lot of realizing I had a lot of gifts that were starting to come out that I had no idea were inside of me. So, I do I'm doing a lot of stuff, and it feels like it's still continuing to evolve.
Well, what brought you around to that frame of mind where you said, I want to step out on faith and do what I want to do? What were you doing before that made you do that transition?
Well, I was running my family business. We had a golf center up in Salem, Oregon that had a driving range, a retail store, and a 9-hole par 3 course. And I kind of grew up working there, and then I had been running it for 11 years. And I just kind of felt like I was supposed to do something else with my life. I didn't know what it was. I kind of felt like I had this gift inside of me that needed to come out, and I didn't really know what it was. and I wasn't quite sure how to release it, but I just knew that I was done growing there. And so I had a chat with my father, and he was understanding. He just wanted me to be happy. And so we ended up deciding to sell it, which kept me there for an extra year, which kind of sucked, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise, because I was just so ready to hit the road, and figure out what was next. So while I was at the business that last year, I had a tough year. Not only was I ready to just hit the ground running, but I picked up a staph infection in my knee and had to deal with a lot of issues with that, and ended up having to have emergency surgery to wash it out. And then I had to be on antibiotics via IV for like 6 weeks every day for an hour and a half a day. And so it was just a real mess. And you combine that with me really just kind of the combination of wanting to hit the road, but also kind of being scared because I really didn't know what was next. It was kind of a low point for me. But I then sat down one day just to kind of try to write a few things down that I felt like would help keep me in balance during this period, because I was feeling really out of life balance. And I came up with 5 things, and they really helped me. And my intuition said, expand the list and write a book. And I'd never written anything before. And so I ended up doing that and self-published it. And it didn't sell a lot initially because I was probably too afraid to market it and really didn't know how to. But yet it won a couple of awards. And so it just pointed me in this whole new direction. And so when I ended up, when we sold the business, I ended up leaving. I then just kind of started that whole process of trying to get the book out there and share what I learned. And it just one thing led to, there's many more stories, that happened after that, but that's kind of a little bit of my backstory.
See, we're going to give you a chance to share some of that stuff, but I want to circle back to the fact that you were involved with golf. Were you, in fact, a golf pro?
Well, no, I actually ended up doing that for 1 year. I entered a program to become a club professional. Mm-hmm. I realized it wasn't for me, but ultimately I just kind of ran the business, and I was a good golfer. I only play a couple times a year now, but I got down to, I think, a 4 handicap.
Well, I know what that means, But the thing I say about golf, though, golf is one of those sports that requires a lot of patience, and your expectations don't have to be too gaudy. You just have to improve, and it seems like that's what you did. You used some, grassroots situations about you to progress to be the person that you are today.
Well, for sure. Believe me, I was terrified to speak in front of people when this book came out, and I figured if I wanted to share it, I needed to do some work on myself. And so I then moved from Oregon to Reno, Nevada. I have a son; he's 25 now, and he was living in the Tahoe area, and I moved down there because he was just entering high school. So in addition to really being there for him and connecting with him during those 4 years, I also kind of just really tried to reinvent myself. And so I knew that I was not comfortable being in front of folks, and so I forced myself to become more comfortable. I took a couple of community college speech classes. I joined Toastmasters for a year. I hired an experienced person to co-host an internet radio show with me. I created an interactive workshop, and I thought I was being clever since, I wouldn't have to talk the whole time, but I found out that it really worked out better that way anyways for everybody concerned. I took an acting class. I had no plans on acting, but, so I just did all these things to step out of my comfort zone to really, to be able to just be more confident and share this, my first book. I will also say that when I was 3, I told my mom that I was put here to inspire people. So she reminded me not too long after I kind of wrote the first book. And so I kind of feel like I almost kind of knew what my life's mission was from a very early age. And I was just, kind of really starting to maybe tap into it after I left the family business. So I knew kind of the direction that I was headed, and I kind of felt like it was supposed to be in a big way, and not saying that in an egotistical way, because believe me, this whole journey has been with shaking knees, but I just knew where I was headed. So I took on that mantle of really trying to do the best that I could to make it happen.
Well, you sound like a walking life example of the King's Speech over there, Brian. But listen, but Brian, when we come back, we're going to take a quick break here, Eddie G and I. And I want to touch on those 5 things you were talking about earlier and get you a chance to list out that, amongst other things, as we continue on with the Book of Dad radio show. This is Dr. Robert Benson. Well, my main man, Eddie G, and G. Brian Benson, the family man. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Erica Janae, and you're listening to Life and Spirit Radio.
The U.S. dollar will collapse. Learn why you should buy physical silver and gold. Order Dr. G's P3. Plan, prepare, protect. Visit www.ygliv.com or call 800-705-6840.
Hey, and we're back. Dr. Robert Benson, Eddie G, and G. Brian Benson. Family guy. I mean, y'all believe it. We're brothers, okay? Well, Brian was in the middle of sharing how he just started to, I guess, reveal himself. And I don't want to get too far off track, but one of the things I've noticed, and I've written a couple of books myself, books of quotes, self-help type stuff, but the one thing I kind of notice is that people don't laugh at comedians unless they're talking about themselves. A story isn't a good story unless someone is revealing themselves. I think that's the reason why Richard Pryor, as awkward as he could get at times, when his best stuff was when he was talking about himself. And when he shared that is when others was able to benefit from it. So without babbling any further, I'm going to ask you, Brian, to come back in and talk to us about the 5 things that got him started the writing and things that he wanted to share. And we'll go from there. Brian, talk to us.
Yes. All right. So, when I was going through that tough period of really feeling out of balance and just kind of lost at that last year of being at the business, I sat down that one day and I just intuitively kind of felt like I needed to write a handful of things down to focus on during this period. And so the 5 things basically were, the first one is make sure that I got enough sleep. The second one was make sure that I was drinking enough water. The third one was make sure that I got some daily exercise. The fourth one was to make sure that I allowed myself to have some quiet time every day. And the fifth one was to make sure that I allowed myself to be creative every day. And now at that time, I hadn't started writing or creating in the way that I am now, but back then it was playing the guitar. So those are the 5 things that I just focused on during that kind of low period. And it really helped me just kind of flow through that, that time a bit more smoothly. And obviously, my intuition came in as well and told me to expand that list. And that became my first book, which is called Brian's List, 26 and a half easy-to-use ideas on how to live a fun, balanced, healthy life. Now, it's looking back, it's no coincidence that was kind of my first venture into writing, because for me, balance has really been my rock for the last 10 years. Learning how to stay in balance and what throws me out of balance, and teaching all those balance workshops really helped me become a lot more self-aware. And to help kind of just solidify my foundation as I began to create and expand in other ways. So that's kind of how it really got all started.
That's amazing. I know you talked about fear in the beginning and how you didn't know what would give you the motivation to step out there and do what you wanted to do. And, I had the opportunity last week to sit with one of my heroes, which is Les Brown. And he talked about fear, and he talked about how there are so many ways that you can hold yourself back. And, fear is not a motivator, but it constricts you. And when you can defeat that, that's when you move ahead. And for so many years, he had a lot of fear, which kept him from following his dream of doing what he wanted to do. And one of the things that bothers him now is that he didn't do it sooner. And I was in that same situation. Talk about NASCA being 25 years old, but at that time, I went through the same thing. I felt like there was something else I wanted to do, but I just couldn't get up the gumption to step out there and do it because I had so many excuses on reasons why it could fail or why I had to have a backup plan and all these other things. But one thing that I did hear Les Brown say was people get into a mindset of, okay, I'm going to do my own business. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to do all these things once I get all my ducks in a row. And one thing he said was, you'll never have all your ducks in a row. So you just have to go. You just have to do it like you did, which is admirable. And I just give you a lot of credit because I understand the journey.
You know, it's never too late. It's never too late. It's never too late. I'm 52 now. I started when I was 42. You know, kind of this whole new thing. And you know, I had a secure job and you know, just living a comfortable middle class existence. And I was my own boss. And I just knew that it wasn't what I was supposed to do. And so I didn't really feel like I had a choice.
You know, Brian, the thing that you said before, and I've heard this not only from a mental or lifestyle aspect, but from a physical one as well, is the term balance. You talked about keeping things at an appropriate scale, so to speak, and I believe that if until you make that concerted effort to balance things out in your life, then you're going to continue to struggle. And I think you just have to sit down one day, like you said, and like you did, and just decide that this is not balancing me, if you will.
Yeah, you know, I liken it to maybe like we're trying to swim upstream.
Right.
And I definitely, you know, had got to that point. You know, I wouldn't change anything that I went through because, you know, I learned a lot from it. But there is a part of me that kind of wishes maybe I'd been able to start this journey a few years earlier. But, you know, it is what it is. I'm where I'm at. And there's a reason for that. You know, I feel like I've had to kind of go through a lot of ups and downs. And, you know, we all go through a lot of tough stuff, and I've had a lot of tough stuff in a lot of different ways as well. But I think it just it helps me gain more empathy and sympathy when I'm dealing with other people, whether it's in coaching or just chatting or what have you. You know, to be able to have those shared experiences of difficulties and moving through them is powerful. You know, just the way it is. You know, we really have to just keep moving forward.
You know, if I could say something, Eddie G, I think Eddie wants to jump in real quick, but you know, the thing I think ultimately is that at some point, you know, while we're made to serve, our best work is what we do for others. But until we medicate ourselves, for lack of a better term, and put ourselves first on some levels, we're just not able to provide and take care of other people. And I think at some point you got to make that concerted effort through the 5 things you talked about: getting enough sleep, making sure you drink water, energize, spending a few minutes of quiet time for yourself, and just create something every day. I mean, if you don't do that for you first, then it's just not possible for you to be effective or to be able to take care of other people. Like, I know the 3 of us, we have children. And that in itself is probably the reason why we all have not been able to do everything we wanted to do, because we had other people we had to take care of first. And then once we got them to where they could ride the bike without us holding the seat, for a lack of a better scenario to offer. But until we get to that point where we got to just say, okay, I have to do this for me in order for me to be able to do whatever I do better for other people.
Amen. 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 And I'll even take it a step further. Yes, we need to take care of ourselves to be our best for others. You know, for me, I had to really work hard at just finding that place of self-acceptance and love for myself as well. And so this journey the last 10 years has not only been creating and you know, hopefully in some ways that you know, inspire and entertain other people, but they've all kind of been, all my projects have been an extension of my own self-growth process. And during that entire process, I was doing a lot of faking it till I made it. As far as in the self-worthiness department,
wow,
I had a lot of stuff I needed to kind of, I don't know, you know, just I had to really learn how to love and accept myself. That I think is probably, you know, we're all here to learn and grow, you know, as spiritual beings having human experience, and I think that probably is the most important job that we have to do, is to really come to love and accept ourselves while we're here. And I think once we can love ourselves, everything else kind of seems to fall into place.
Well, that's a great point. Well, we're at the point where we're going to take another break. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the different books you've written and talk to you about this being this triathlete. I mean, you're my hero, man. I mean, I can't even. I think I tried to run a mile once. I ended up crawling for about 100 yards. So this is Dr. Robert Benson with my main man Eddie G and G. Brian Benson, and we're talking up some great life stuff here. We got to love yourself before you can love somebody else, and we'll be right back.
Are you struggling with debt collectors? Scared to answer the phone? Order Dr. G's Man Survival Kit and learn how to stop creditors. Visit www.ygliv.com or call 800-705-6840.
Hey, welcome back to the Book of Dad radio show with Dr. Robert Benson and Eddie G and our special guest, G. Brian Benson. We are talking about some real positive issues. Mr. Benson, the new Mr. Benson.
Yeah, not Dr. Benson, the other guy.
Yeah.
Talked about
my brother, man, my brother.
Yeah, he talked about some good things, some fear and other things. But one thing you did mention, Brian, was being at a later point in your life and finally making that move. Now, the other side of that is there is I believe at least, that, there is a predestined journey that you're going to follow. The things that you're doing now, you probably weren't ready to do them back then. So that's why now is the right time to do it. I've found that in my own life as well. There are situations that have come about that were great opportunities, but if they would have happened in my earlier years, I would have screwed them up or not been prepared to actually do my best at it. So, there's two sides to it. There's a side where fear holds us back, but then there's also a time where we have to understand timing is everything. So I just wanted to get that point across. Dr. Benson wanted to bring something up about your triathlon skills.
Well, first, let me just say the last name Benson after sifting through all of the suffixes and stuff and where it came from originally. It really means that Benson is a blessed person, son of someone who's blessed. So with that said, we're all very, very blessed people, okay? So...
Yes, we are.
And then we go back to the timing thing about, it's all in God's hands. I mean... You know what they say, and how many times have you heard people say, if you want to make God a comedian, or you tell him what your plans are, right?
Oh, my gosh,
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, how many times have you heard that? And it really turns out to be the truth, absolutely the truth. But, Brian, I really am interested in how you became a triathlon athlete. Talk to us about that.
Sure. It's like at the start of the show, I kind of mentioned that I feel like I've had many lifetimes, and that was one of them. When I was in college, I was playing mud football with a bunch of guys, and somebody hit me, and my kneecap got knocked out of place. And it was nasty, and I ended up having to have surgery for it and stuff. And I was a really active guy, played a lot of sports in high school and stuff, and it just it was a bit of a low period there. But a couple of my friends had done a couple of short race triathlons, and this is way back in 1987 when triathlon was still pretty new. And I thought that was really cool, and I just felt like I'm supposed to do one of those things. And so I just set a goal to really rehab my knee and get it really strong and get myself into shape, and set a goal of doing one. And so I did that in the summer of 87, and I was hooked. It just made me feel alive. It was like maybe a 500-yard swim and a 15-mile bike and a 5-mile run. So it would be considered a sprint triathlon. And I ended up doing 4 more that summer because I just had so much fun and really just... I don't know, it gave me a lot of confidence. And so I was hooked. And the next summer I did 10 more.
Wow.
And the third summer I did some longer races the second year, and then I ended up doing my first Ironman the third year, and I did another Ironman the following year in 1990. And so I ended up doing probably almost 50 races over the course of about the first 5 or 6 years. Mm-hmm. And it's just, looking back, it was really a fun time for me. I mean, it just became a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And, the thing that, when I was in college the last couple of years while I was racing, my grades are mediocre. I mean, I didn't really know what I wanted to do the whole time that I was in school, but it wasn't partying that kept my grades down. It was training, but it really, was an awesome confidence builder for me. And I took a break, and I ended up, like 15 years later, after my son was born, I kind of got reinvigorated and did a couple more Ironman, one in 05 and 06. And the one in 05 was just really, really special because my son was 11 then. And his mom brought him up there, and they spent the day there watching the race. And, you know, he didn't know it, but I had plans of grabbing him the last 100 yards and having him cross the finish line with me. And the whole training, 6 months of training leading up to that, I just held on to that visualization of him finishing with me, and it really made me emotional, and it really kind of kept me training and kept me focused, and it just, power visualization is so important. And so come race day, it was just really special to have him there, and I grabbed him, he was surprised, and we just had the most awesome finishing picture of both of us. And so it was just probably one of the best days of my life. So triathlon for me has just been really wonderful in a lot of ways.
Wow. You know what, Brian, we did an interview with Apollo Ono, and he did the Ironman in Hawaii. And to all our listeners, you can watch that video on the NASCARnetwork.com website. But as he said, there's just so much to it. It pushes you to the limit. All I can say is I did a triathlon. Well, the closest thing I've done to a triathlon was a Big Mac, fries, and a large drink. That's the closest I got. But that's why I give so much credit to you for doing that, man.
What's funny for me, man, is that I never really learned how to swim, and I tried to get into one, and they wouldn't let me do the rowboat in the place of the swimming, so I wasn't able to participate. You know what I mean?
Well, crap. I mean, just. For me, I think, having done those when I was a little earlier in my life, it just, even though it's completely different kind of than what I'm doing now, I think maybe just having that those experiences in my back pocket maybe gave me a little bit of, I don't know, just a little bit of confidence or the same. I'm very driven in a lot of ways. And so I think that they both triathlon and my journey the last 10 years of creating are probably fed by the same source.
I see. It's a great point, man. One of the things one of my favorite authors was Covey, and I see that a lot of your latest book kind of mirrors some of the concepts in which he had the 7 habits of highly successful people, and you have habits of success for success. That's 26 items here for your latest project. Have you read Covey, and has any of his writings or musings inspired you in any way?
Well, it's interesting. I don't want to. I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I'm totally familiar with him and such. And actually, his son really gave me a really, really kind endorsement of my new book. Mm-hmm. I think. How do I explain this? Initially, when my publisher started kind of getting everything ready and the cover and all that kind of stuff, the person that was doing that wasn't really familiar with the material in the inside, and they kind of maybe were pointing me toward more of a business type kind of a feeling about it. And I don't want people to, get that impression. I mean, I think the information in there could be implemented by anybody because I think it's more, it's just definitely a culmination of the last 10 years of my life. I mean, when I was little, my mom, she said that I said the word why all the time. And I brought that inquisitive person into my adulthood, and I just kind of sat in the observer's role of my own hero's journey the last 10 years. I've just been kind of documenting my own self-growth process. So all the habits that I talk about and write about were all really important to me and foundationally building. And I tried to write about them kind of in an inspiring, entertaining, vulnerable, and thought-provoking way. So it's, I don't know. Does that make sense? It's a self-help book.
It does.
But yet it's kind of more of a part memoir, part a lot of things. It's just I want people just to kind of put themselves in, a lot of times when we listen to someone speak, we kind of put ourselves in their shoes and get like, how would I handle that, or how would I have reacted? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'm wanting other people to kind of just do that with this book. to try to help kind of spark them.
I get it. Another thing too, man, is that it's, even though it's kind of a cliche or a statement, is that great minds think alike, and that's really the truth. A lot of times when you are thinking and you're at a certain level, there are a lot of people who think the same way and have done the same things, and you do some of the same things that they do, totally oblivious to what they did before. So I get exactly what you're talking about. So let's go ahead and take one more break. This is Dr. Benson with Eddie G. and G. Brian Benson. And Brian, when we come back, we'd like for you to talk about each one of your books or projects that are coming up, things that you have planned in the near future, how we can contact you and how we can continue on this great network we've established between us. We'll be right back.
Great day, everybody. This is Dr. Gilbert Coleman, and I'm coming to you with some of the most exciting news ever. I am coming to you with the news about a book that many of you men, and even some of you women, have been asking me about for years now. Finally, it is in the making. Transforming the Minds of Men, the book, is soon to be released. And therefore, I want to make sure that all of you will be able to get your copy of it. A book that is going to address male life skills, a book that also is going to address some of the issues that men face on a daily basis, even the issues that we face with the women in our lives also. You want to make sure you get it. In fact, some of you ladies, you want to be able to get the book as well, because every transformed man needs a transformed woman. So therefore, you can get ready to pre-order this book. Now, in order to pre-order, just go to my website, GilbertColeman.com. Just that simple. Go to GilbertColeman.com, put in your order, and we'll make sure that we rush your book to you right away. Please know, Transforming the Minds of Men, the book, is coming soon. You best make sure you get your copy right away.
And we're right back. Dr. Robert Benson with my main man Eddie G. and Mr. G. Brian Benson, my newfound long-lost brother. Hey, Brian, how are you, my man?
I'm really good, Dr. Robert.
Thank you so much for...
And Eddie. I will always call you that.
All right, cool.
You worked hard for that.
That's true. That. If you can just convince my wife that I did, But Brian, we want to just ask you to kind of list out your 5 books and a little bit of what motivated you to write them. We're going to try to get a little bit more in between your ears about what you got going on, what's coming up, how we can reach out to you, and some things going forward.
Sure. Well, we talked about the first book, the Balance book, Brian's List. My second book, I think came out maybe in 2013, called Finding Your Voice. And it's just a compilation of blogs and stories and some poems that I wrote that kind of helped me maybe on my journey of finding my voice. And then I wrote a couple of children's books, one in 2016 and one in 2018. The first one's called Steve the Alien, and the second one is called Lucy and Chester's Amazing Adventures. And I'm really proud of both of them. They're rhyming and they have nice messages. And Steve the Alien has a little boy as the main character, and Lucy and Chester's Amazing Adventures has a little girl as kind of an empowering little character. And then my latest book is, which we just chatted about on the previous segment, is called Habits for Success: Inspired Ideas to Help You Soar. And they are all available on Amazon. You can also find Habits for Success via the link habitsforsuccessbook.com. And it's only been out 6 weeks, and it's been a lot of fun, talking about it and trying to get it out into the world.
Well, it's always exciting when you have a new project, and it's like having a new kid, I guess, and you just want to let the world know. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are interested in that. I have 2 grandsons. I'm going to have to check out that. Was it Steve the Alien?
Yes. Yeah, you can find all those on my website, too, if it's easier. It's just gbrianbenson.com. But, yes, it talks about them. There's a synopsis on there, and absolutely.
Oh, that sounds great. I'm into alien stuff, so.
Sweet. Awesome.
I might read it more than my grandson.
But going forward, I know I've got more books in me, but this year I'm really focused on just sharing the messages about the book. I'm going to start doing a lot more speaking. I haven't done a lot of that yet, other than some of the workshops, and I did a TEDx a few years ago. But I'm really excited about speaking more. I've I'm doing a lot more coaching. I've got, get some webinars going and, just creating. I've got some more spoken word videos that I'm going to release that I'm excited about and love to collaborate with other people. And I've got a small part on a TV show that's coming up, I think that starts in the spring on the El Rey Network. It's called Sangre Negra, meaning black blood in Spanish.
Oh, so you speak Spanish?
Well, it's in English with a little bit of Spanglish mixed in, but I did take 3 years in high school, so I can understand it a little bit.
Yeah, you sound like the commercial.
Oh, you're like me. I used to work for Telemundo and Univision. I used to do commercials for them.
Oh, wow.
But I didn't really speak Spanish well. I could understand some things, but people would. I would be the only guy on the job who couldn't speak Spanish, and everybody's talking in Spanish. And then when they figured it out, they would look at me and they'd have to say it again in English. I'm like, sorry, buddy.
Yeah, that's funny, man. One thing about the language, I was actually in Spain for about 3 years, and I took Spanish for my undergraduate degree, and I had 2 years of that. And I was understandable over there, but now I can't even put two sentences together.
Yeah. You got to keep working on it. I know that's for sure.
You definitely have to. Yeah. Matter of fact, I'm like that guy, that commercial. They say, yeah, so you speak Spanish? I say, no, but I did sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night.
Yeah, I love
that. But, Brian, just to kind of circle back to what you were talking about, that gift to gab thing, man, and it's the truth. It's one of the biggest fears of known to man is public speaking. And once you master that, once you're able to articulate without fear in front of people, I think that's one of the greatest gifts you could ever have, or at least nurture and work on.
Thank you. I'm excited to expand my horizons in that field. I know I'll be able to do it. And you know what? I guess the part that makes me a little nervous, and I have no fear, doing this with you, and I almost would rather just use the energy of the room and get questions and let it just expand that way than try to maybe regurgitate something. That's where I get a little bit nervous because I feel like I'm going to forget what I'm supposed to say. So I just, it's just a matter of me kind of figuring out a way to figure out a way that works for me, and then just trust it and go with it. Or at least that's what I tell myself.
I agree. I feel the same way. Being on the radio, it's a lot easier to just have a conversation than it is to present something because, I'm sure people who are very good at it, there's a plan, you follow the plan. It can be mechanical, but some people have the talent and the skill to take that mechanical layout or presentation, just filter it around and make it more personal. And make it more of a conversation where you can incorporate the audience and things like that. I'm just not there. I understand.
That's interesting. You mentioned that. I was learning about public speaking, and somebody said to me, they said, maybe you should just imagine all the people in the stands in their underwear. I said, but what if it's a fat people's convention? So, Brian, tell us how we can get in touch with you, man.
You can, my website's the best way. There's a lot of fun stuff on there. It talks about the books. I've got all the little short films and videos, and it's gbrianbenson.com.
I will we'll make sure that information is out there on the website. And
thank you.
We can't really overemphasize how delighted we are to have had you on the show and to talk to us about yourself, your experiences, and the fact that, the thing I'd like to walk away with that will resonate with me, I'm sure, going forward, are these 5 things that you talked about. Getting enough sleep, drinking appropriate amounts of water, stay energized, getting you some quiet time, and being creative at least daily. I mean, that's the being creative daily thing has kind of led to me how I wrote my first book, which was a book of quotes to my children. Because every day I used to work away from them. I was out of town, and every day I would write a quote to them that I just made up. And like you, I accumulated about 200 of them, and I just decided to publish them. So that level of creativity within a context of doing other things. The thing I would ask you about those 5 was that were you rigidly scheduling those things or just kind of let them happen as they happen throughout the day?
Well, A little of both, for sure, a little bit of both. It just kind of depended on the day and how I was feeling. But if I felt like I needed a little reminder, I would definitely make sure that they all happened. If I was doing okay, I would just maybe, whatever I could do. But, I really started really kind of I started meditating then. And, looking back, all those long runs and bike rides I went on were forms of meditation. And so I've kind of been, there's lots of ways that we can kind of connect with Source. But I kind of purposely tried to do that, around that time too, because whenever things get low, a lot of times we start to kind of, that's when we look for our higher power and all that kind of stuff. And so I started meditating and started just kind of reminding myself of who I was and why I was put here, and that really helped as well. But to answer your question, a little bit of both.
Copy. Well, Brian, again, thank you so much for joining us on the Book of Dad radio show, Life and Spirit Online. Eddie?
I just want to say thanks as well. And I also need to follow those 5 points. And it's difficult, especially when you're on a busy schedule, but when you really take the time, because I've done it off and on, and I feel better every time, which is why I don't understand why I don't continue to do it.
Right, right. We get sidetracked. We're like, why? Why do we get sidetracked?
Yeah.
What is up with that?
That's it.
Because it's great.
Right. Well, Brian, thank you for joining us. And we'll definitely be talking to you again.
I hope so. It was a pleasure, Dr. Robert and Eddie. You guys are fantastic. It was a lot of fun.
All right. Take care of yourself, Brian.
All right. You too.
All right. Well, Eddie G, another show that we can chalk up as a great one.
Excellent guest. I love a positive, motivational direction, and that's where Brian is, man. He's going to the top. I can feel it.
Hey, man, so how many times have we heard the word balance and success being used synonymously?
You need both, and I think that as Brian said, I'm looking at following those 5 steps. And then for 2019, every time the new year comes around, people make resolutions and things like that. And a lot of people look down on that because most resolutions, you last 2 weeks and then they're done. But
exactly. Yeah.
That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You're still encouraged to make goals, whether you make it or not, whether it's the same goal.
That's true.
You just have to continue to try. And each time you have to figure out why it failed the first time and how can I do it differently this time. So eventually, you're like the ant and you'll make it up that ant hill.
Persistence in another word. Hey, but Ed, don't we have some new programs on NASCAR you want to talk about, or you want to share that later?
Well, I'm gonna do a big reveal soon, but I just want to say that once again, 25 years. It's been it's been up and down. It's been a powerful journey. I would like to thank all of our friends and clients and mentors and mentees over the years. We've learned so many things from so many people, and in turn, we've taken that knowledge and tried to share it with others, with our mentoring program that we do with the young people. And as you said earlier in the interview, life is really satisfying when you're able to do for others, when you're able to provide something, whether it's knowledge or something physical. But, you can give somebody money and gifts, but all that stuff can be taken away.
Absolutely.
But what can't be taken away is experiences and knowledge. And that's the most valuable gift of all, and love.
Well, God bless you, Eddie, and God bless the NASCAR Network, my man. It's great working with you, and we'll continue to do this forever and ever and ever. Amen, my man. But hey, it's the Book of Dad radio show, Life and Spirit Online, only on NASCAR Network, and I'm hanging out with none other than my main man, Eddie G. And we'll talk to you next time.
You can find out more about Robert Benson by visiting his website, thebookofdad.net, where you can purchase your own copies of Robert's books, The Book of Dad, Quotes for a Lifetime of Wisdom, and The Book of Dad 2, more quotes and anecdotes for a lifetime of wisdom.